What's going on, everyone? This is Lior with Compass out of Boston. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 things I hate the most about homes around the greater Boston area. So let's get at it. What's going on, everyone? This is Lior, and I'm with Compass out of Boston. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 things I really don't like about homes around the greater Boston area. Now, before we get into it, 2 quick things. Number 1, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel and you're new here, smash that subscribe button for me. I put out so many new videos every single week, from what it's like to live around different neighborhoods in Boston, tips on buying, selling, investing, and a lot more. So if you haven't already given me a subscribe, smash that button for me. And number 2, if you guys are thinking about doing anything with real estate around the greater Boston area, I get so many calls from you guys who watch my videos, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about doing anything, hit me up on email, text, Instagram, phone, whatever it is, and I will help you out. So let's get into today's content. And it's kind of a funny video I'm doing because I typically like to be pretty optimistic and pretty positive, but I thought I would do the top 5 things that always kind of drive me a little bit insane when I look at homes around the greater Boston area. And a lot of this is going to be predicated on the fact that, hey, Boston is a city, and obviously the homes around it Boston's a very old city. A lot of these homes are super old. A lot of them have been built, were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So we're talking about, 120, 120, even 150-year-old houses here. So based on that, let's go to the top 5 things that absolutely drive me insane. And we're going to start with number 1, which is a lot of these old homes have very choppy layouts. And what I mean by that is, if today the really sexy thing to do is open concept, right? Where you've got a nice big area, your bedrooms are typically really big, and the layout is just very functional, it's very flowy. But with these old homes around the Boston area, if they haven't been gut renovated or really significantly renovated, within their history, they're going to be super choppy. It's very common in apartments as well. So if you're going to be renting in non-luxury apartments, you're probably going to get this. But you basically are going to have, they just don't flow really well. They're very blocky. You have a lot of walls like in between the kitchen and the living room. You'll typically have walls between living rooms and dining rooms. It's just not very flowy, and it kind of makes it feel a little constricted. Now, obviously, it's not a problem that can't be fixed, right? So if you're going to buy a unit like that, it's typically relatively straightforward to come in and do the renovation, to open up walls, make things feel better. But when you go see a lot of these places, and if you're going to be, especially if you're going to be looking closer to greater Boston, you're going to see that a ton, where they're very weird layouts that are super choppy and not really friendly for today's living. Number 2 factor that always kind of drives me insane, again, especially in homes that haven't been renovated recently, a lot of these condos, single families, and apartments, they don't have central air conditioning. Now, in Boston, it's not like it's a huge deal, right? Because let's be real, you probably need AC here maybe a month and a half of the year, but it can still get pretty hot during that month. And with a lot of these homes, again, if they haven't been renovated, they've been here forever, it's like incredibly unlikely they're going to have air conditioning. A lot of them don't even have forced air systems, right? So a lot of the systems here are like, they're baseboard, hot water baseboard. You have radiators. So there's not even really an easy way to add central air. Typically, your best bet is either go window AC. If you can get away with maybe some mini splits installation, that could work. But that's another thing that always kind of just boggles my mind. Especially as you walk around a lot of these older homes, very unlikely, unless you're looking at renovated homes, that you're going to have a lot of central air. Factor number three, and for more from an exterior perspective, especially, and this is really prevalent like in the Boston neighborhood specifically, but also in places like Cambridge, Somerville, and other surrounding cities, is a lot of these homes, when they were built right on top of each other, right? Like literally, these lots are not always big, and there's not always a lot of room between one property to the next. I mean, a lot of these areas, obviously, they're row houses. If they are completely detached structures, once you're really close in the city, there's really not a lot of room in between them a lot of times. And that just kind of can drive you insane from a privacy perspective, right? I mean, you just have buildings right on top of each other, like usually windows on windows. And there's just not a lot, it just kind of all feels a little tight. Now, I will admit that is kind of part of the Boston charm, especially in like the downtown neighborhoods. It does certainly give it a feel, but sometimes you just want a little room. So if that's kind of something that's really important for you, just be aware of that, because again, especially in the Boston neighborhoods and the really surrounding cities, a lot of these buildings are typically right on top of each other. So just be ready for that. Factor number four, also kind of going off this notion of these homes being built very tightly on top of each other, you don't typically see a ton of private outdoor space, especially closer to the city, right? Once you get into the suburbs and you're dealing with single families, you can certainly get bigger lots and bigger private yards. But when you're in the city, again, Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Brookline, Allston, Brighton, all those areas, basically, again, you're typically dealing with multifamily housing. If you're lucky, if you get a little private deck to yourself in the back, sometimes you might, if you're buying a triple decker, maybe you have like a front porch and a back porch, and you can get that deeded to you. If you're lucky enough to get a first floor unit where the yard is not shared between all the units, but it's actually deeded to that first floor, that's usually your best bet in the city to have like a true private outdoor space on the front level. But otherwise, there's really not, you don't really get too much of that. Now, that is the nature of living in cities or very close to cities. I'm sure if you go to other major cities, you're going to have that same issue. But again, very, very real issue, very, very real factor in Boston. So if you're looking for outdoor space, it's definitely, it's definitely something you really gotta hunt for quite a bit to get significant outdoor space in the city, in these large condo or apartment buildings. And finally, factor number five. This is probably going to be a little bit more personal for every person and the kind of style they like. But one thing about Boston, buildings in general, is that a lot of these buildings typically are between 3 to 6 stories tall, right? So you don't really have a ton of like high rises here. I mean, if you go downtown, right, like in the financial district, or if you're going to go to places like the Seaport that are newer, they've got brand new construction there where they're building luxury skyscrapers. Sure, you're definitely going to see, obviously massive, massive buildings. But I'd say for the most part, in most of the neighborhoods around Boston, and again, the other ones like Cambridge, Somerville, Brookline, it's pretty rare for you to see, buildings that are more than 3 to 6 stories tall. So if you're maybe moving from a place like New York, Miami, LA, and that's something that you really love, just be ready for quite a bit of change because it is very different here. There's only a few select neighborhoods where you can see that traditional city skyscrapers for residential living. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. Those are just some of the factors that I wanted to share with you that kind of drive me insane. I really don't like some of them, and some of them, I guess, are definitely more personal. But if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, shoot them below. And like I said, guys, I get so many calls from you guys watching my videos, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about doing anything with real estate, hit me up, and I will take care of you.